In this lecture, I'm going to talk about the Catholic social theory theme of the common good. The common good, the idea begins with the human person in context. And that means that Catholic social theory doesn't immediately think of the human person from an individualistic perspective. The human person is understood as integrated into a vast complex of social relationships. In this way, humans are essentially social beings. This interconnected social network undergirds all individual achievement and all individuality itself. So the human person isn't this atomistic, isolated entity that we think of separated, but is essentially integrated into his or her social network. An example that I often use is the basketball star example of someone like LeBron James, a great basketball player, and we often think of him in terms of his great individual achievement on court. But in truth, from a common good perspective, or from the perspective of Catholic social teaching, his individual achievements are all part of a vast web of social support systems that his individual achievement wouldn't be possible had it not been for this vast web of social networks that support LeBron James, the basketball star. So had it not been for teachers, coaches, parents supporting him through all of this, LeBron James easily may never have made it to the NBA. Had it not been for the popularity of basketball in sports and sports systems and the economic support of the American economy and the economies of so many other peoples around the world that offer so much disposable income so that people can spend their money on the products that LeBron James and the NBA sell, and can go to these games and pay at the gate to attend these games, and for support of fans, support therefore, and the support of all other kinds of management systems that keep the NBA going and keep it thriving as a system. All of these things come together to make LeBron James who and what he is. The very existence of basketball is a social construct. It was originally one person's idea, but the game that's played today isn't the game that was created over 100 years ago. That game has undergone development and change, and it's been because of the contributions of unknown numbers of people that have created a game that is sophisticated like the one that we see today, and isn't a bunch of kids in a playground throwing a ball in an apple basket that's hanging on a pole. So I use this example because if any one of these key elements were missing, LeBron James would be a very different person than he is, probably not making the kind of money that he is, and not enjoying the kind of fame and renown that he does. That individuals are who they are because of the context within which they find themselves and the social networks that support those individuals. The flourishing of the community also helps the well-being of individuals in that community, is another essential understanding that comes from the common good. The relationship between the common good and private goods is analogous to the relationship between the whole and the part. That is, the part being those private goods which contribute to the whole, which is the common good. Just like the body is more than the sum of its parts, society is a new entity that is brought into being when people cooperate in community. The common good is the proper end and goal of a society, according to Catholic social theory. So what are the characteristics of the common good? Well, first of all, the more common a good is, that is, the more it is universally shared, that is, the more people in a society who share in that good, the more perfect it is. The whole is superior to the part, as I mentioned earlier. So sometimes private goods must be sacrificed for the common good. For instance, sending dangerous criminals to prison. That individual's private good of freedom is being sacrificed for the common good. That is, we're being protected from that criminal. We are violating that criminal's right to freedom in order to preserve the good of the rest of us. Any good of an individual that is a real good is rooted in the good of the community. Any common good that is a real good is at the same time the good of all individuals who share in that community. So individual private goods and the goods of the common good, or the communal goods, really share a kind of symbiotic relationship. Finally, I would like to talk about the common good as a teleological goal. By teleological, I mean that the common good is a final cause, a goal of perfection. It is the goal towards which all of civil society ought to be ordered. That is, whenever we make a decision about how society ought to be ordered, what policies ought to be pursued, what procedures we ought to apply, we have to, first of all, ask, will that contribute to the common good? Because the common good is our goal, our aim, our purpose. That's what teleology means. What is the final purpose of what we're doing here? The moral goods of the community, such as justice, peace, and unity, can never be attained through immoral means and are always jeopardized by the use of such means. Cooperation is the unifying force of a society, which is analogous to the unifying forces of quantum mechanics, for instance, that hold the atom together. So, just like the quantum mechanics, it has unifying forces. So also cooperation is that unifying force of a society that creates the groundwork for the common good. So cooperation is the key to a society's goodness and strength. That's our primer on the common good. You'll be reading readings and entering into discussion about the common good to learn more.